Hello, friends, and welcome to today's episode of Booked. I'm your host, Saffron Asteria, and I am so thrilled to introduce today's guest, Rodney McWilliams. How are you doing today?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me, Saffron.
Oh, it's my pleasure. This has been a long time coming. It's been, I think, over a year, I'm sure. Sarah, we've already scared Sarah, so this has been a good start already. But yeah, I'm so pleased that you're here. I'm really excited to talk about your books and your work. So I'm just going to crack on, if that's okay with you. So the first thing that I want to ask you is, I want to know about your writing journey, because I know it's been going on for a while. So could you tell us a little bit about your background and sort of how you came to write many books?
Well, it's kind of an interesting story, because when I was a kid, like in elementary school, I like to write stories, and I'd get a story and it was like a page and a half long, and I thought, oh, that is, not realizing I didn't know what I was doing, not realizing there's so many things that are missing, not having the realization that people in the world don't have osmosis and can see all those pieces in my head that I didn't put on the page. And then I kind of got away from it. And in high school, actually, I hated English.
Really?
With a passion. Did not like it at all. When I got into college, I got enough credit from entrance exams to get out of half of my English, and I took a CLEP test to get out of the other 6. I didn't even want to take it. And then when I went back to school to finish my degree, I ended up having a creative writing concentration, because I got that feeling back and that idea back about kind of what I wanted to do.
Cool.
And even though it, with life getting in the way, got in the way of writing, got in the way of school, I don't recommend the 22-year college degree plan to anybody, but I don't regret the way that it happened.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be the person I was now if things hadn't gone that way. But I had lots of different ideas that bounced around in my head. And in 1998, I had an idea, and I don't want to give away necessarily a spoiler for the book, but my big thing was the nature of the villains, and you've probably gotten into it far enough to know what the villains are, and that's the piece that I don't want to spoil for anybody. And I thought, well, what if the origin was this instead of, well, like what we've seen in other pieces of literature? I wanted it to look enough like what people recognize to know what it is, but have it come about a different way. And that started as a conversation around the dinner table with my wife and her family in 1998. And I started writing. And it changed a lot over the years, because I'd be able to write some, and then life would get in the way. I'd have to stop, and I'd go back. So I'd end up going back over what I'd already written. So like the first half of the book, I probably went through and edited the first half of the book 24 times, because I'd have to start over to get back to kind of get my mind back where I was. And then I finally got to the point where I had enough time to finish it. And, it ended up being, it was my debut novel, and I know that it's not 100% perfect, but I'm really glad that I finally, I did it. And, and realized how much I enjoy writing and capturing, I've seen quotes and things about this before, and kind of the way that I write. And I've had people say that have reviewed it and have given me feedback. I kind of envision in my head what it is. And then I write what I see. So, a lot of the times the work is very organic, and writers will joke about how, well, I planned to do this to this character, and the character said no.
Yeah, I hear that a lot.
And that really does happen, where you kind of get in there and you can kind of get in the flow and kind of get going. And, but I finally, got it ready and got it out, and I've released 4 books so far. There is another prequel novella that is just waiting to be edited. It'll come out soon. And then I've got other things that I want to do, because I like the idea of writing something that you can't really pigeonhole it into a certain genre. And I don't know how easy that is to do anymore, because in my day, back in the day, sci-fi fantasy was it.
Mm-hmm.
Every one of these things would have kind of rolled up underneath that category.
Mm-hmm.
But I've tried to put different things together that maybe aren't normally coupled together.
Mm-hmm.
That's why, like the Scourge, it starts out very much like almost like a crime procedural.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Because my lead is a detective, and I've got to get her from there to where I need her to be.
Mm-hmm.
And it, and then so then I pull in horror and suspense and thriller and supernatural creatures and other things.
Mm-hmm.
I get that free to get her where I need to go. And I kind of like the idea of throwing together genres that maybe don't traditionally go together.
Mm-hmm.
Like one of the ones that I've got that is being edited, I have a sci-fi western.
Mm-hmm.
It's necessarily original. That's Firefly was the same kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I've got other ones, and I kind of try to do that, where I kind of try to mesh some things together, and maybe maybe it doesn't have a name you can give it.
Yeah, I see that a lot more in indie books than I do in trad books, because you can't really necessarily, as you say, pigeonhole particular books. But I liked that about Scourge. Is it Scourge? Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah, that's how I pronounce it.
My accent was going to make it sound different. So what I really have found, I didn't realize I was going to like things like urban fantasy, and I liked that it was really graphic, and I liked that it had like that cop movie sort of feel right at the beginning. So I was like, okay, this is kind of my thing, because that kind of eases you into the fantasy elements of things, which I really enjoy. And I've read another book recently that did a similar thing, not the same at all, totally different books, but where I was like, okay, yeah, it's this thing, and I was like, hang on a minute, there's a warlock, and it makes me enjoy that element more, rather than, because I can familiarize myself with it. It's relatable to me, and I can be like, okay, so this could be me. This could be me in this situation. And it makes it more, as you have written on your website, and I think you touched on it here, that, you want to give people a movie to watch in their head as they're reading your book. And you very much do that. And there's a lot of description in there, and there's a lot of like, okay, so let me tell you exactly what I'm seeing in my head so that you can see it in your head. And it's really, really fun. I've really enjoyed it. I haven't finished it yet because it's really long. It's one of the longer books that I've ever tried to read. But yeah, I've been really enjoying it because it's got a lot of elements I like, because it doesn't shy away from the graphic nature of violence, because I love horror and things like that. And the characters are really relatable, and most of them are likable. The right ones are, anyway. So yeah, I'm really interested to see where this series actually goes. So you have the trilogy out, and you also have the prequel, and then another prequel novella that's in the works at the moment. Do you plan on expanding past the trilogy for?
At some point, I think that I do, and that's because I really like these characters, and there's places that I know I can go further on with the characters, and I kind of built it that way. And I've got a pretty good idea, I think, that can stem from that. And, the way I wrote them, you mentioned the length, and I knew that they were really long, which is very much outside of trad publishing guidelines. I wrote it and I was proud of it, and they were like, oh, we don't want anything over 120,000 words. And there's a lot of other things that they don't want, and I'm not going to get on my soapbox about this traditional publishing formula, as I like to call it. But I knew I could have broken that trilogy probably up into 6 books, but I didn't want to do that, because I wanted the person to get a very good, very complete entertainment experience and get their money's worth.
Yeah.
So, Scourge is 186,000 words. There's probably twice as much book there.
Yes.
As what you're going to find on the shelf, but it's no more expensive. And I partially did that on purpose.
Okay.
I mean, if they're willing to invest in me, I want them to get their money's worth.
Yeah.
And get it.
Awesome.
And that's why it's longer. But to get back to your question, yes, and the reading order really is, even though those are prequels, people need to read Scourge and Demons and Cataclysm first, and then read Origins, and then Guardians is the name of the next prequel.
Okay.
And it's kind of just those 2 books. They're not real long. altogether. It's maybe 200, 250 pages for both books.
Oh, cool.
But it kind of answers some of the unanswered questions from some of the characters in the first 3 books.
Okay.
And I don't even want to spoil it for you, but it covers a pretty good span of time. And the 2 prequels, probably about 400 years.
In that little pages.
Yes, but it just kind of touches on, because some of the history came up in the books. So some of the things I don't need to repeat. And then there are some things that I went in to do where I felt like, okay, this question is big enough that I think the reader would want to know the answer. So that's kind of where that is. And then it also kind of lets me set up for what I want to do in the 4th book, which I will eventually, get to. I mean, the trilogy, the first 3 books, that completes this story arc for Angela.
Okay.
Per se. So it could be standalone, and nobody, people could not read the prequels, and they could just read these 3 and they're going to get a complete story. They're going to get her story. But I will continue it on because I've left it open enough at the end of Cataclysm that there can be more based on this world that I've created and the situation that they're in.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. So I know that, Scourge came out in 2022, Demons 2023, and Cataclysm and the prequel Origins both came out this year.
Correct.
So were you working on them all simultaneously, or did you get into a groove and you were like, I'm just going to keep writing until I can't write anymore?
The first one was kind of done completely on its own. And I had always kind of had the idea that I wanted to do at least 3 books. At one point I contemplated 5, and then that's when I made the decision. No, I want to put it in 3. I want the people to get their money's worth. And I had Demons written but not published, and I'd already started writing Cataclysm.
Okay.
And in doing trilogies, I'm almost to the point that I think writing the trilogy completely before anything releases is almost a better way to go, because the way my mind works, there were things that I dropped in the earlier writing that I could pick up and use to accomplish what I wanted to accomplish in the 3rd one. But when they're not set yet and they've not been released, I don't have to worry about going back and like accidentally undoing something that I did in the first one.
Yeah, for sure. That makes a lot of sense.
Or something like that. And I could see having the 2 together. Like I could go and I could do something, and then I'd jump back into Demons and I would add a scene somewhere. Because another thing that I really, really like to do in my writing are Easter eggs. I love Easter eggs.
Love an Easter egg.
And so sometimes I'd have an idea and I go in for Cataclysm, and I'd go drop an Easter egg or maybe not an Easter egg, but maybe a little foreshadowing in the 2nd book.
Yeah.
But I also love Easter eggs. Like you've probably gotten far enough along in the book that, have you read the part where it's in the morning and Angela gets up and she's listening to the news and she listens to a song on her computer? Are you familiar with that song?
I'm not.
Look up the lyrics to that song.
Okay, I'm going to
at some point. That was probably, and you'll understand why I'm not saying what the song title is.
Okay.
For people that haven't read it, but I mean, because it's one of my wife's favorite bands, and I got introduced to that song 25 years ago. And to the point that I even sent an email to the artist production company to ask them, could I use the lyrics instead of just the song title? Because you can't use the lyrics without a copyright issue, but you can say the title. Okay. But even that particular song is probably the biggest hint as to the nature, the question I came up with in '98 and the nature of the villains that are in the story. Most people don't know the song. I don't even know if they'd go look it up. But usually if somebody's read it and I tell them and they go look it up, they smile.
Okay, I'm definitely going to do that.
So
I love stuff like that. I love a hidden meaning. And I'm not saying that your work is like The Simpsons, but one of the things I love about The Simpsons and anything that Matt Groening and his team do is that they put like great stuff in the background of things. So you've got the main story, and then if you rewatch it and you look at the background, you can see like the stores that they're near have like a theme to them that tells you a bit about the story. And I love things like that because it makes the story much more rich, in my opinion, if you have those things. We also have some people that do like Easter eggs as well. So E.M. Culler, and we've also got Sarah, who loves writing Easter eggs. One of her most favorite parts of writing. It's so much fun because you get to play with the reader a little bit. Like, are they going to see it? Are they going to guess it?
Well, and some of the things that one of the other things that I like to do too, and I don't really want to, I don't know how I can say it without necessarily giving it away, but some of the names of some of the things that Angela uses, I didn't make up those words. But I'm not going to tell anybody. If they look the word up, if they see one and they look it up, they may get the connection. And see. You know, and I like doing that too. Instead of just making up a word, I try to find a different way to do it.
For sure.
You know, and you know, if it works, it works. If not, maybe it doesn't. You know, like most books, you do 110% of research, and about 5% of it actually makes it in the book, just enough to make it feel real.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I wanted to ask you actually. A lot of the like police and investigation stuff in the book felt real or lived. What kind of research did you have to do for that? Did you ask a cop? Did you go to a morgue? What kind of stuff?
Some of it is honestly, I love movies, and I've seen lots of different movies where they do morgue scenes. And you know, even though I've never been in a real morgue, I know for the amount of commonality between all those different sources, there's got to be some truth to it. And even if it's not 100% true, it's what people will recognize as a morgue because most people have never been in one. So that makes it real. Now, there are some things that I actually did go and looked up, just, you know, to make sure, like, you know, I remember
like the legal requirements and things like that.
Well, yeah, like some of the things, like what do they have to do, or you know, is there some procedure for handling a specimen related to a investigation or something like that? You know, and enough to make it feel real. And I've had other people tell me that they felt like it was very real. Now, there's some things that, like, I remember one of the questions that I Googled was, how much force does it take to break a human bone? And I actually got an answer, and I'm like, you know, I didn't think about how creepy that would look after I asked it.
Like,
yeah, you know, but there are things like that I think if you don't do it and you don't put in that little bit of effort, the reader is going to be able to tell that you've made it up. You know, they're not going to just accept it, you know, and it's one of those things that I like to read Stephen King, and you know, but movie makers aren't always kind to the literature.
For sure.
And one of the things to me that examples I had when I was young that was like what not to do was the example of the movie they made of Lawnmower Man with Stephen King, because I think they skipped too many things. In the story, you go through and it's about this man and he's got telekinetic powers and he can mow the lawn with it and he can get it to do. And then suddenly the next scene, he's in a fight and he's like totally disintegrating people into little bubbles and they're disappearing. And I'm like, you've stretched my reality too far. I can't bridge that gap. And accept it, you know, and people in the theater started to heckle the movie at that point.
Really?
And this was years and years ago.
Oh my gosh.
A very prime example. Another reason I like Easter eggs are some of the movies by M. Night Shyamalan. That's how you pronounce his last name. The Sixth Sense in particular. Signs was also very good that way as well, where you go through and you see the movie, and it's one of those you have to watch it a second time. But then when you watch the extras and you see what they intended to do, and you can see it through that lens, you really capture the brilliance of how they pulled the wool over your eyes in front of your face and you didn't see it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that to me is that if you can do that, you've done something, you've accomplished it.
Mm-hmm.
And get somebody in there like, oh, no way. Then they read it.
Yeah.
Or they get mad enough and they want to throw the book.
Oh, that's my favorite.
So whatever the case may be, it's like, okay, I've done it. I've done what I intended to do.
Yeah. That's the only time that I'm okay with looking like a fool, and that's reading books and watching movies, because I don't want to because the way my brain works is that I'm constantly trying to figure out the thing. I'm like, okay, so it must be them, they're the murderer or whatever it is, and I must annoy my husband something chronic because I'm always like, I bet it's him, I bet it's that guy. Look, why has he got that kind of pen? And I constantly do that when I read a book or watch a film or a series or whatever, and I'm actually fooled. That's my like top rating of whatever that thing is. Not that I'm good at guessing, it's just that that's my favorite part of doing it.
Well, and a thing I've noticed is in watching, various movies and whatnot, is I've gotten older.
Mm-hmm.
I don't get fooled near as much because, so if something does, it usually is truly very good or very unique. Mm-hmm. Because like after seeing the M. Night movie is a good example. After I saw Sixth Sense,
mm-hmm.
and he pulls that trick on you.
I know.
I figured it out about a minute before my wife did, and I was like, no way. And then when you go back and you watch it again and you know that, there are so many things that people you've missed it.
Yes, it's
you
like
didn't catch it. Like probably the most profound one, especially in Sixth Sense, was when he went to the restaurant
mm-hmm.
with his wife on their anniversary, and he sat down at the table.
Mm.
He didn't pull the chair out.
Oh.
I didn't know that until I watched the director's stuff, and they said it. Now I went back and watched it, and I was like, it was right there, and I didn't see it. The chair was put to the table, and he just sat down.
Fascinating.
Mm-hmm. Kind of a deal, but it's.
Yeah, so that's something you try and include in your work then, is that you try and lead people in a direction and have subtle hints to things. I think that's it, and that is a craft. Like that is something that I don't think anyone will ever be perfect at, but it's such a fun experience when you're writing, is to try and lead people in different directions. I've been getting some people to read my work in progress at the moment, so I'm going to keep calling it. It's going to be forever a work in progress, a perpetual whip.
You'll get there.
But what I try and do is I send them like the first 3 or 4 chapters just to ask them where they think it's going to go, because I don't want to accidentally get people to figure. I want people to go, what the heck, when they're reading it, because that's what I enjoy from books. But we also have M. Night Shyamalan. Big fan over here. Never noticed the chair. There you go. I'm going to have to rewatch it now.
Yeah.
We also do have a question from SS Fitzgerald. So, how do you keep important details between the books relevant? Do you put reminders or conversation points? Is it something you do digitally, or do you have a notebook? How does that work for you?
I kind of do it. It kind of depends. I know that there's a lot of conversations out there in writers. Are you a plotter or are you a pantser?
Mm-hmm.
And really, it's usually a combination of both.
Okay.
Now, one of the things that usually I will do, if I get a story idea and I get a plot idea, I usually will start out in Word, and I'll start out making a kind of an outline.
Mm-hmm.
That, okay, here's my plot point, here's kind of what I want to do, and then here's the character, and then I'll flesh out, okay, this character's male and he's this height and this weight, and kind of get some details and stuff in to kind of get the structure laid out, and then I flesh that skeleton out.
Okay.
Kind of going from there. And and I'll also, the other thing I like about Word are the comments, because I can go through and I could just tag a comment to the side and say, I need to resolve this thread, or I need to check and make sure that I've got whatever right, based on, like, especially in, like, when I was writing Cataclysm and I had stuff that I knew I was pulling from the first book, I would leave a note to myself, you need to make sure that you have it right.
Yes.
Because I can't remember every single detail from the first book I wrote. I just don't think that's possible. So, I'll do different things like that or have different plot points. And usually I start out that way.
Yeah.
I may even have ideas or snippets like for a conversation. Like maybe there's some scene that I envision some scene and I really like the way the scene looks and I capture it and then I figure out how can this fit here? Would this go in another where would this fit and where would it fit the best?
Okay.
And I kind of do that. Now there have been times where I have had an idea come to me out of the blue, and I have the basic. I know how I want it to start. I know what I want it to be, and I know how I want it to end. Just immediately, and then I try to get it all down on paper. And because like that happened, I'm going in the master's program for creative writing in January, and I have an idea that I came up with that way, and I think I'm going to save that idea for the thesis part of the master's degree.
So did you say you're starting a master's in January? Is that what you just said? Yeah. Well done. Congratulations. That's very exciting.
Yeah, an MFA in creative writing. And the last piece of it is you write a novel. And it was odd because I was at work and I take the elevator to go to work every morning. And another lady was in the elevator with me and she asked me, where was I going? I said, I'm going up to 5. And she was like, oh, they don't let me go that far. Kind of laughing. They said, I can't go any higher than the 2nd floor. And I kind of laughed. But when she said that, I made a comment about, well, at least it's not like Willy Wonka and the elevator is not going to fly out of the roof. And she laughed. She was old enough to know what it meant. And in that moment, an entire story idea. And as soon as I got to my office, I sat down, I jotted the stuff down right away so I wouldn't lose it. And I thought up, and it was just amazing how it just happened that way. And then sometimes when I'm writing, I've got multiple works in progress right now. I've got a kind of an action spy one. I've got a fantasy one. I've got another supernatural one, and I'll start kind of writing them and go. And if sometimes I get to the point where it's kind of like, I feel like I'm lost in the weeds and I'm like, okay. And then I'll stop and I'll go pick up something else and come back to it. And how my mind can shuffle between those like that, I don't really truly understand how that works. But usually if I switch get I don't know if I want to call it writer's block. I just can't get that. On that one, I can't figure out what to do. So I move to something else.
Yeah.
And then when I come back, it'll be, oh, and then, so it's kind of a mixture of both. But yes, I do take notes, mostly electronically, just because it's easier. One of the things that really, really helps, I've noticed too, is trying to find more unique spellings for your character name sometimes, which is easy to do, like if it's fantasy or something like that, because it makes it easier to use find to go back and check things that you've already written. But yeah, I kind of do both. But yeah, I keep things down, and like in the back of all 3 of these books in the trilogy, there's a bunch of appendix materials in the back, because the other thing I thought that if I'm not going to do this the way somebody normally would do it, I'm going to set this up like a nonfiction book.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And there's appendices in the back. So like in the back of Scourge, there's an appendix of 10 codes, which are the police codes, and I think only 1 or 2 of them come up in the book, but they're there.
That's cool.
I think in the 2nd book is where I have a cast list that has all the different people and a little bit about them. It's got a creature list, creature and creations list that kind of defines some things. So, I thought that would kind of be a nice touch to it too. People don't have to look at that stuff to enjoy the book anymore, but it's there if they want to look.
Well, that's cool. That kind of goes on to this sort of second part of Fitzgerald's question. So in relation to the readers, if there's an important event in book 1 that impacts book 3, how do you remind the reader? So do you do like recaps at all, or is it just, would they need to read them in order to understand?
I think, you could read them standalone. I do think I would more recommend reading them in order.
Yeah.
But there are things that I'm sure there's some of the things that I referred back to that I didn't necessarily do a recap for it,
Mm-hmm.
but sometimes I do. And usually when you do, it only takes a sentence or two.
Yeah.
To kind of redefine, to kind of tie it back together. But I do. And usually I don't know how much I did it in those books, but I do try to kind of, since they are a trilogy and they're in order, kind of have some recapping that happens at the beginning of the subsequent books,
mm-hmm.
just to kind of get the reader back to where the book left off,
mm-hmm.
where the third one left off, to kind of make that transition.
Yeah.
Between the two books. I'm sure that there's some in there, some connections that I made that people aren't going to catch unless they read them in order back to back.
For sure, yeah.
Because I've had some things where even I've gone through and read it, and I'm going, wait a minute, and I had to go back and look, to when I wrote it, and I'm like, wait a minute, is that right? Because it's hard to remember.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm the creator of it. I'm sure it's even harder for people reading it for enjoying it. They may or may not remember it after one reading.
For sure. I mean, it's really easy to forget what you've written. I think I've read chapters 1 through 3 of my work hundreds of times, maybe, because I keep forgetting what version of it is now. Oh my god, I can't speak. What version of it do I have now? Because obviously you'll also make changes, and sometimes I find it hard to remember what version of it exists anymore. And I'll go back and I think, well, where's that line? Oh yeah, I cut it out because it doesn't make any sense. Do you find yourself, as you've been working through the trilogy, did you have to read your books in full over and over again, or did you know kind of where to flick to find the information?
I kind of knew where to go to when I do it. And one of the things that I do, because electronic files don't take up very much space,
mm-hmm.
is every time I go in to write, I save that copy with whatever that date is attached to it.
Yeah.
And then I write, and then the next day I go through. So I may have totally changed something
mm-hmm.
3 months down the road, but the version I wrote 3 months prior
mm-hmm.
up to a point still exists.
That's
to where so I have a way I can go back if I need to and go, no, wait a minute,
mm-hmm.
did I change that? Did I change this? Because I've run into that before too, where I've gone through and I've had maybe a minor character that I killed off for whatever reason, or just they were just dead to begin with.
Yeah.
And farther along the story and go, nah, it would be better if they weren't. It really wouldn't hurt. So then I have to go back and kind of fix it
mm-hmm.
to allow for that person to still be alive.
Yeah.
It's usually not major plot points, but I try to make sure there aren't any loose ends.
Sorry. I nearly choked on air for a second. My goodness. What I'd like to know from you is your publishing experience. So I did read through your website just to see what information you had on there, and you've got a fantastic sort of explanation of your journey and how all of this came about. So I'm trying not to ask too many double questions because I want people to check out your website. So I did put the link in the chat for your website as well, and the QR code is right here if you're watching this on a screen that's not your phone. But so you self-publish these books, and I understand that it's so that you basically didn't have to compromise on anything, and you wanted to get the books out there. And I know that briefly earlier you talked about, the length of the book. You decided it wanted to be that length. That doesn't really lend itself well to the traditional publishing space. What's your experience been like self-publishing? Has it been rewarding, stressful? How much have you cried?
There are pros and cons to both, clearly. Self-publishing to me is very satisfying because you have control over what you're doing. You have control over the content. If you don't want to have romance or spice, as they refer to it in the books, you don't have to have it. Well, some publishers want that in there because they feel like that's what's going to sell.
For sure. Yeah.
And, my goal is not to write and sell as many books as I possibly can. My goal is to deliver a good story. So I like the fact of having that control over being able to do it. Now, I've submitted a few times, and I'm still submitting. It would be nice to get to a point where I could be traditionally published and I don't have to worry about all the other things that come with self-publishing.
Yeah.
because, for the most part, self-publishing is almost free.
Yeah.
I mean, you can write the book, you can get it together, you can publish through, Kindle Direct or Barnes Noble Press or Draft to Digital. There's all these places. And then if they sell a book, you get a royalty, and that covers their expenses and you get paid.
Mm-hmm.
You have to pay for your own artwork.
Mm-hmm.
That can be a crapshoot, really, depending on, luckily I found a very, very good artist, and she's very reasonable.
Mm-hmm.
Some people may have to pay for an editor. There's things you don't get. The big thing is that you don't get the reach that a traditional publisher has. If you write a book and they really like it, it's going to show up at Walmart and at Barnes and Noble, and it's going to be on everywhere.
Yeah.
And they're going to push it. You're going to get the advertising. You don't get that in self-publishing.
Yeah.
You very much have to grow your own as far as to get the book out there and get it, and get it in front of people.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like even with this book. I don't think the first book is perfect, but I do think it's a very good story that people will enjoy.
It is, yeah.
But the challenge is getting it in front of the people that will enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
And and one of the things that I've found that I do in-person events occasionally.
Oh, you do? Okay.
And those actually surprisingly go very well.
Oh, really? Oh, that's good to hear. Okay.
Like there's a comic book convention of all things. Mm-hmm. There's one. I mean, in your area, there's probably several of them a year, but we have two a year, and one of the ones that I go to, there's a lot of anime involved, but because it's a fantasy book, and that kind of appeals to that crowd.
Yeah.
And I tend to do very well in person, in selling the books and getting them out, in front of people. And I try to do what I can to build like a mailing list to where I can send my newsletter out to people that I've connected with, and I know that they are at least interested in that kind of thing.
For sure, yeah.
Kind of go from there. And it's something that I can't ever lose. It's not a follower through a service that if the service suddenly goes down, that's it. They're gone. So it's been a very organic experience. I don't regret doing it at all.
Good.
And like I say, I think both sides, I think if somebody has something good enough, I think they could be just as successful self-publishing as they could going through a publisher.
Yeah.
But you don't have to meet all of the publisher's criteria for them to say, okay, we're going to do it. They have a model of what they want. And if you don't fit the model, and one of the things that I've told people, probably my biggest statement on this point is I can either traditionally publish, and I can let 2 dozen, 3 dozen people decide if this is good enough to put in front of a reader, or I can put it in front of the reader and let them decide for themselves.
Yeah.
And I'd rather do that. And, one of the things for, people that are listening, and this is completely counterintuitive to being a writer, but if people do go to my website and they subscribe, they can get a free ebook copy of book number 1.
What a bargain.
And in that way, they can try it. If they like it, great. They can try it before they buy it. If they want it, they come back and finish the trilogy. The links and stuff are all there. If they don't like it, it didn't cost them anything to find out.
That's really cool. That's such a good move. And if you missed that, if you're listening either on the recording or if you're watching live today, the QR code's on the screen. I will put Rodney's website link in the description of the video as well for those who are watching the recording. And I have put it in the chat. So you can get a free EPUB copy of book 1, Skirt.
EPUB or PDF. They can pick which one, because some people don't use a Kindle reader, and pretty much every device has a PDF reader on it, so they can access it. But but I did an EPUB version too for people that know how to email things to their own Kindle.
Yes, awesome. So I've been reading it. I haven't finished it yet because I'm really bad at reading long books, but I've really been enjoying it. So if you want to try a new series, it's the perfect opportunity to do that. I've seen a lot of people have success in giving away like the first of the series, because you're getting that buy-in from that person, and they don't feel like sometimes when you read a book, it can take a while to get into it. And I think people are more willing to give it a chance if you've been kind and been like, hey, I just want you to try and enjoy it. And if you don't, that's okay too, because there's no pressure. It's not that you're going to hunt them down and be like, where's my review? So this is the Triskelion saga. And I saw on your website that you're also working on the Unitarium Chronicles.
Yes.
How's that going?
That one, the first book, just needs to be edited. And that's going to kind of be, that's going to be a little bit different in the respect that I'm building a universe. And there will be other books with the characters that I have in the first one. But there's going to be other stories that are just written within that universe that are much more loosely related.
Okay.
But that was kind of the idea, to where the installments may jump around, and there'll be some things that are in common with the books. But it may not necessarily be a direct prequel or a sequel to the one that's been read before. And I may at some point down the line tie some of those things together. I don't know yet. I kind of wanted a bigger playground to work in with it, to do different things and to introduce some concepts that the concepts can be in other books, but maybe it's not necessarily the same characters. I'm hoping, as of right now, that the next novella will come out next, and then the first Unitarian book, Angel of the Waste, will be the next release after that.
Okay.
I don't know for sure what is going to be the next one, honestly. I'll have to see. I don't know what it's going to be like once I'm actually back in school, and if I'm going to have enough time to write around schoolwork. Which is kind of why I wanted to get a couple things finished, so I can, I'd like to be able to release a book every year or two or so. I've seen some people out there that like every 3 months there's another book, and I'm like, that's too much and too fast.
Yeah, I don't have the organization skills or the motivation to write that much in a short period of time.
Well, and sometimes it can be a little bit misleading. And like there's an author that I'm thinking of in particular that I'll get notices. He's got a new book coming out. But it's not always a book that he wrote. It may be a book written in the universe he created, and somebody's borrowing the universe, but it's not really writing. And I'm like, okay, I can understand. But that's also going to get your name everywhere.
Yeah.
But that's not an approach I would take, because it's like, I don't want my name on something if I didn't actually write it myself.
No, my conscience couldn't deal with that.
Yeah.
So we do have another question from Ellen Holmes. So do you have any tips for in-person events when it comes to selling books?
I think I just kind of fell into it. I was really, really nervous the first time that I did it. And the first one I did was we have a local resale type bookstore. It's a chain, but there's not very many of them in Texas. And they don't charge you anything to do a signing event. You just tell them you want to do it. They give you a table and some chairs, and the selling is just totally on you. And probably getting over that initial nervousness of just reaching out to somebody that walks through the front door and saying, hey, or, whatever. Kind of as we talked about before we started recording, people in Texas tend to be pretty friendly. I don't know if I could do the same thing anywhere else, but I usually just, when people come up close to the table, if they look and they make contact, I'll ask them, do you like urban fantasy? Do you like strong female leads? Do you like this type of supernatural creature or whatever? And you can kind of see that gleam in their eye, whether they're going to listen or not immediately, and, kind of go through it. Now, in person, I always price the books better than they can get them anywhere else.
Okay.
I give bigger discounts if they buy the set. If they buy all 3 of them, it's cheaper than buying the 3 separately. I sign everything.
Oh, cool.
That's one of the things that, to make sure that I do. A lot of times I'll even try to do something where they can get something that's free.
Okay.
Something real, not just like a bookmark. Like the first time that I did, the first book event I did, is I had a raffle, and whoever won the raffle got hardback copies of all 3 books, signed for free.
Yeah.
But it was difficult to do because they had to, they had to be present, they had to come back, and they had to do it. And I did that, and then the next year I did it. The next event I did a raffle, but it was for paperbacks. Because really the hardbacks, you can get my books in hardback with a jacket cover from Barnes and Noble. But they're as cheap as I can, almost as cheap as I can make them.
Yeah.
But even to get an author copy, it's cheaper for me to buy it as a customer and get the royalty back than it is for me to buy it as an author, because of the shipping and everything. So, but I did it more because I wanted to see my book in a hardback. I don't know how many people would ever actually buy it, but I wanted one that way. So I put it up there.
That's a dream for a lot of writers, I think, is to see their hardcover with a dust jacket.
And that's one of the things. And Barnes and Noble, in my opinion, does it right. Amazon does hardbacks too, but it's like a textbook where the cover's glued onto the heart, and I don't like the way it looks.
I don't like, it's not my favorite.
But I always try to do something like that. Or if I talk to them and I can tell they don't quite want to buy, I'll ask them, well, if you want to sign up for the newsletter, I say, if you sign up, you can get a copy of the first one for free, and I tell them that. To where they can get something. Now, there's times I've done like bookmarks or whatever also, or I'll talk to them about it and kind of tell, and I'll tell them, and I'll give them, the bookmark has a QR code on it so they can get to the website if they want to. And just being very, I don't know, I guess very approachable. I mean, I've noticed, I've had other people come over and say, I'm just curious to see what you have. You've got a lot of people at your table. And I don't know if it's in the situation that I'm in. Maybe I'm one of the few people that's selling, urban fantasy, which I guess is the tag this fits under.
Probably, yeah.
Or they hear the word fantasy, and that's kind of what they're interested in. And like one of the book festivals I went to, I don't know if there's anybody else selling fantasy, maybe one other person. There were a lot of people with romance and a lot of people with children's books and science fiction. So it may have just been the fact that I was kind of the black sheep in the crowd that had something different. But I've gone to that comic convention twice, and I've gone to that book festival twice as well, and I've done very well at every one of them.
That's good.
Being in person. Some of it I think maybe because even though like right now I'm nervous.
You're doing great.
I'm not afraid to talk. And I think that's what it is. I mean, with some of the experiences and the things that I went through, I'm not afraid to not say something. I'm not afraid to sit here and just let them walk by the table and not even try.
Yeah. I think it probably helps as well that you care deeply about the writing, and you care deeply about the stories that you want to share with people, and your main goal is to share those stories with people. Yeah. So that will always make it easier if you really, really believe in your work. Yeah. Whoever's watching this, if you're planning on doing in-person events, I've done it with, I had a gourmet marshmallow company, would you believe? And I hate talking to people, which is stupid because I have an interview show. I find it deeply uncomfortable. Yeah. But when I'm talking about like books and things that I really, really love, I find it really, really easy. Yeah. So I did have a quick idea. I don't know if you've tried this yet about the raffle. Have you thought about over the weekend or whatever it is that you have this in-person event, having the raffle advertised in person, and to enter they have to sign up to your newsletter, and the person whose name you pull out of the hat, they just get emailed with their information. You can post them their books.
I've the first time that I did it, it was an in-person deal, and I had slips. And to enter the raffle, they had to subscribe to the website, and I told them that up front.
Oh, they did. Yeah.
And the first time I did it, now the last two shows I went to, I didn't push the raffle I didn't do a raffle. I didn't push it as much because, clearly I would prefer to sell a copy than give a copy away. And that's the approach that I can tell that if I can tell a person doesn't. They're not willing to spend the money, I'll offer them the avenue to get to the free copy. So they can still try it. And hopefully if they like it, they'll leave a review. Hopefully if they like it, they'll come back and they'll buy the subsequent ones. It just kind of depends. Like the last time, because the novella had just come out, they bought a set, they got the signed novella for free.
Oh, that's cool.
They got that. And once I get the other prequel out, I may do the same thing, and it maybe not be free or have a set price where they can buy all 5 of them. It'll still be cheaper, overall. But I do try to get people to sign up if I can. Sometimes if I'm not doing the raffle, I'll just put out a clipboard where they can fill their information out. Not everybody does that, and that's not the best approach because other people can see it.
Yeah.
And they may not want to do that. One of the things I thought about doing was like taking a small tablet.
Yeah.
Where they go directly to the thing and in the information is good, and then it's gone. Nobody else can see it, but it's captured on my end. And then I have this direct connection to somebody that was at least showed interest.
For sure, yeah.
And there are some people, I've got about 270 subscribers. I've got about 90 or 100 that they open the newsletter every month.
That's really good numbers, by the way.
Some of them don't. Some of them never open it again. Some people do it. They get the free book, and in a month or two, they unsubscribe. It's like, okay, that's fine.
You still got a book out there.
They read it. Maybe they didn't like it. Maybe whatever the case may be. But at least I gave them a chance to decide for themselves if they liked it.
Yeah. I think before I go on to my next question, if anybody has any other questions, please do put them in the chat. How do you, and it might just be part of your personality, how do you manage rejection when it comes to people not liking your work? Because I find rejection really hard because I know it's not personal, but I desperately want people to like what I'm doing. So how do you manage that when people are like, nah, don't like it?
Yeah, well, it's one of those, I told myself up front, and I think anybody that wants to write, they need to tell themselves this up front, and it's hard because writing is very personal.
Yeah, it is.
This is your creation. This is your baby. This is you're very close to it. It's very important. The step of writing it is an accomplishment in itself, even if you don't release it to the world. But you have to go in knowing that when you do release it to the world, there are going to be haters out there.
Yeah.
Whether it has anything to do with your writing or not.
Yeah.
Some people may just genuinely be, I have to remember and tell myself, fiction's subjective. Not everybody is going to like it. And it's the same way as if I read a book, I read lots of different books, and I read lots of ebooks and things all the time. And I try to be very careful in the way that I review a book, because just because I read a book and I don't like it doesn't mean that somebody else isn't going to like it. I usually, if I don't feel like I can give it a 4 or a 5 star, I just won't submit the review.
Yeah, I'm pretty much the same.
Because, now the only time that I may do is if it is just, horribly written. There are times that if I'm reading it and the misspelled words are so common that I'm like, oh God, there's another one, and I'm not paying attention to the story anymore, I may give those be a little bit harder, because that regardless of what the idea the person had, they didn't write it well.
Yeah.
But I continue to tell myself it's subjective. Not everybody's going to like it.
For sure. Yeah.
And I know that they're not. And, now with that said, for anybody that is thinking about self-publishing, there are some things I will say that are firsts that are just, you can't measure them. They're priceless. You sit there and you write it, and you work with your artist, and you see all this stuff digitally, and you see it every day. You see it over and over and over again. The first time you open that box and you hold the physical book, I can't explain how good that feels.
Oh,
that it makes it real somehow.
Yeah.
My first book, I submitted it and I won that award, that first place award for urban fantasy.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And that is such a validating moment,
Mm-hmm.
because it's like somebody else read this and enjoyed it enough
Mm-hmm.
to do that, and that's the thing, and even in the first review that you get, that's not from somebody
Yeah.
And the reason I make the distinction is it's great that your mom, or it's great that your brother, that your sister gave it a 5-star review.
Mm-hmm.
I don't trust those necessarily because they have a vested interest.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying that they didn't genuinely think it was a good book,
Mm-hmm.
but the first good review you get from somebody you have no idea who it is is another one of those very validating, okay, I have done something right,
Mm-hmm.
an author, to have that happen.
Mm-hmm.
And those are just very satisfying moments, and I don't have, in all of my books so far, I've been blessed with the fact that I don't have a whole lot of reviews, but they're all 4 or 5 stars. Some of them are all 5.
Yeah.
In the first book, there is a 1-star review, but I know exactly how that happened. And that was dealing with one of these agencies. And as a self-publisher, you beware, because they go out and they find things and they say, hey, do you want to use our service and we can make you a bestseller and we can put it out, all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And there was one person that reached out to me and wanted, I said, I'm not interested right now. I don't have the budget for that right now. I don't want to do it. And asked for the link of the book. And then I finally wrote the guy back and I said, look, I told you I'm not doing this. Mm-hmm. And then suddenly I had a 1-star review 20 minutes later. Mm-hmm. Or not a rating, not a review, just a I'm like, okay, now that's just cold.
Cowards.
Yeah, I know where that came from. But, but that said, I know not everybody's going to like it. Mm-hmm. It's subjective. You just have to understand that going in. Mm-hmm. Because not everybody's may not want to read that particular genre. They may not want to read that. You have no control over how well it's going to be received. You can just do the best job that you can, and then you relish in those things that validate it for you. Okay. I've got the real book in my hand. Mm-hmm. I won a contest. I got a really good, thoughtful review from somebody, and I have no clue who they are. Mm-hmm. Those things are much stronger than, if I send something out, I expect it to be rejected. Okay. I mean, honestly, it's kind of, hope for the best, plan for the worst.
Yeah.
Because I realize that if I send that out to somebody, they're taking submissions. They could have 150 things on their desk. And if they're not having a good day, it may get tossed to the slosh pile because, like, oh, it's urban fantasy. Mm-hmm. I know that it may have never even been given a fair shot because of the system that you're dealing with.
Yeah.
Which to me is another pro for self-publishing. I know that I wrote the book I wanted to write, and people are going to like it or they're not going to like it. And luckily, I've been blessed so far, and I think there are more people that have liked it than have rated it.
Yeah.
Because people don't. I used to be guilty of reading about, and I never left ratings until I became an author, and I'm like, those really are important.
Yes, they're very, very valuable. It's like currency. So going back to your award, so it was the Chicklet Cafe, so the CLC Book Excellence Award for 2023, and this is for Scourge. So that's the first book in the Triskelion saga for paranormal and urban fantasy. And you also got a reader's favorite 5 stars that's on the cover as well.
Yeah, and that's across the whole series. I've entered all 3 of those books in the contest. I didn't win, but they did all 3 get 5-star reviews.
That's fantastic.
From that, and because you have to pay to enter, Amazon won't accept paid. Mm-hmm. They won't accept reviews that were any money was involved.
Yeah.
But the fact that it's, on that level to get that review, it had to have competed with some other books in that category. It still got a good review. So again, it tells me, maybe I didn't win, but not everybody got a 5-star review either.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, it's still a fantastic accomplishment. And yeah, looking at your reviews and the feedback that you've had, they're all really positive. So that's something to be proud of. And I think as long as you've got those, even if it's like one review or like one person that, as you say, you don't know that's enjoyed it, you must hang on to that thing, because then if you get people that give you like not as good feedback, or if it's not as well received, that's something that I have to remind myself, is that it isn't for everybody. Not everything is for everybody. So yeah, it's a self-publishing, writing a book, putting it out there, letting people see your inner soul and your mind and your heart is such a vulnerable experience that you have to have tough skin, I think, to be successful in any capacity. What does success look like to you?
I mean, really, I mean, to me, I almost feel like I already have it to some extent. I mean, you know, it would be great if I could have a traditional publisher pick me up and they wanted to print everything that I've written. I mean, that would be awesome. But, you know, but to get the book out there and to have people read it and come back, and I know that they enjoyed it, that, you know, they saw the movie in their head, they enjoyed the story, they, you know, they liked it, and they got connected to the characters. That's what I'm after.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, would I like to be able to do this enough that I can retire and supplemental income? Yeah, that would be awesome.
That's the dream.
may or may not happen. You know, I mean, you know, I have no expectations of being the next Stephen King or being the next Tina Tinch or being the next Rebecca Yarros. You know, I don't necessarily, you know, I never set that expectation for myself, because it's very hard to achieve. You know, and it's especially hard to achieve as a self-published author.
For sure.
You know, and, you know, so it's just one of those things that I've kind of tried to, you know, so to me, I feel like I have been successful. I can write, I can still come up with ideas that are different. You know, I can still put them out there, and if somebody enjoys them, hey, I've done what I set out to do.
That's fantastic. I'm so glad that you've already found your success, because some people are still chasing the dragon that is the traditional publishing route. And I think it's good to have that as a goal, because if you know that that's something in your heart that you'd really love to achieve one day, you still feel successful because you've gotten those works out there and people are enjoying them. You know, there's something to be said for satisfaction, especially when you put hours and hours and hours and hours and hours into something that you really, really care about, and then let strangers look at it, which is the scary bit.
Well, I mean, it's just quite cool. And there's like one of the people that really likes my books, he actually works where I work. And one of the coolest things is, like, I'm like, oh, I finished, and he's talking about it. And it's like, wow, you know, I wrote something enough for him to remember it and come talk to me about it and remember what was in the book.
You impacted somebody, and that's really, really cool.
And that, you know, and that's it. You know, that's the thing right there. You know, that's what makes it worth it.
For sure.
You know, if I could have a publisher pick me up, that's just like icing on the cake, but it's not the cake.
Yeah, that's the bonus round.
Exactly.
So are your books on Kindle Unlimited?
They used to be. The only one that I have on Kindle Unlimited right now is the Origins prequel. When I first put these out, I did have them on KU. And it's not that I dislike KU, but if you have it there, you can't put the ebook anywhere else. Yeah. It's an Amazon rule, so I didn't continue to have them. Now there are, like I say, the people can get the first book for free. The second and third book, they can get them from Amazon. If you don't like Amazon, I do have a link to a Patreon page on my website, and they can buy them direct. Oh, great. Okay. They're not any cheaper, but they don't have to go through Amazon if they don't like Amazon. Yeah. They are available at, like I say, at Barnes & Noble as well. Ebook and paperback, and then Barnes & Noble has the hardback version if somebody really, really totally loves it. And then there's a lot of other secondary sites that Draft to Digital is another platform for self-published authors. So there's some bookstores I've never heard of, but there's several other places where they can buy it. And I think some of those books, so I think some of those are actually England-based.
Oh, cool.
Bookstores. I don't remember all of them, but there's a whole string of them. I think I still have them up with Kobo, which is like, which is the service like KU that, or like Kindle that Walmart uses for theirs. So I've got it in a lot of places, and I think there can be some value in Kindle Unlimited. You just have to know that if you put it out as an ebook there, you're not allowed to sell it as an ebook anywhere else.
Yeah.
And one of the things that some authors might, and I haven't bridged this yet, that some authors may not know, when you go into places like Barnes and Noble Press, or you go into Kindle Direct Publishing, they will provide you with a free USBN number for your book. ISBN number, I'm sorry, ISBN number. That also gives them the rights, which if you do start to get more popular, you do start to get more pronounced, you can purchase your own ISBN numbers. They're 100% yours. It's just an expense most new self-published authors can't do.
Yes. Yeah.
But what you can do is, even if you've had some success with Barnes & Noble or Amazon, you can take your book with their ISBN number down, and you can republish it with your own number.
Is that what you did?
I haven't done it yet. I intend to. I'm not. I mean, I don't have enough. I haven't reached enough people yet, I think, to make it. They've not. Nobody grabbed this book and was like, "Oh, this needs to be a TV show."
Not yet.
And I don't know. It's one of those things that that would be like the icing on the cake, to find out somebody read it and they're like, "Oh, this would make a good movie." Oh, I agree.
It would.
And I've had people tell me that, because the way that I describe the scenes and the way that I set it up, that the world is very real and very rich and very believable, which I wanted to do. The setting is a character, and like, especially in, clearly in the first book, and you've noticed this, I mean, it's in New York and it is cold, and hopefully that comes through very well. And the actions of the characters and the way the description, people can understand what it's like to stand there in an alley looking at a dead body with sleet pelting you. And,
Yeah, I think you can tell that you spent a hell of a lot of time and taken a lot of effort. You can tell that you've been ruminating on this story for a long time. And I'm so pleased that you have achieved your goals and that people have received it really well. I'm hoping that anyone that's watching this will give it a go. So again, if you missed that at the beginning or the middle, well, I don't remember what it happened. Time is an illusion. If you sign up to Rodney's newsletter, then you will receive a copy of Scourge, which is the first, I'm trying to get the link to put in the chat, which is the first book in the Triskelion saga. I nearly said series because I've started mumbling my words. And I'll put it in the chat as well, just in case you missed it, but well worth a go because it's a lot of fun. We have one more question here. I don't know if we'll have any after this, but Jade asked, what would be your dream adaptation? Film, TV? Do you have any directors or platforms or anyone in mind?
I think, I mean, it's hard to say. There's pros and cons to both. Film is nice because of the breadth, and the distance that it can reach. But you have to think about the fact that, movies have to fit within a certain time limit, which it's longer now. But a lot of times I taught myself a long time ago that if there's a movie based on a book, I need to see the movie first.
Okay.
Because there's going to be things they leave out of the book because they have time constraints. And usually you can still enjoy the story, but sometimes you go back and you read it and you're like, wow, that they left that whole part out. That was very important. Which that would make you think that lending it to like a TV series, because they have more time, they can stretch it out, they can address them, especially because there's 3 books. I don't know which one. I would be flabbergasted and flattered if anybody wanted to do either.
Mm-hmm.
You know, now if I could pick anybody on the planet to make a movie of my stuff, I think I would pick Christopher Nolan. He is one of the. I don't think I've ever seen a Christopher Nolan film I didn't like.
Really?
Even before I knew that it was Christopher Nolan.
Oh, fascinating.
And the example of that is when I was doing my undergraduate work years and years ago. I took a film class, which I think most college students do because it's an easy class. It's an easy elective, and we had to watch Memento. Or Memento. And if you have not seen that movie,
I haven't. No.
It's a very good movie in the way it's directed. It stars Guy Pearce, which some people know and some people don't, but he's been acting for a long time, and it takes you a little bit to figure out what's going on. And the only thing that I will say is that if you find it, if you pick it up, it is important that there are scenes that are black and white and that there are scenes that are color.
Okay.
But you won't understand why in the beginning. You know, but when it all comes together, it's like, wow, that was a good movie. Tenet is another excellent example of, you know, and of a different approach to something that, you know, they didn't, because I don't want to say Tenet involves time travel. I wouldn't say that's really what that is, but I don't know how else to define it. It was a very unique approach, and the way they captured that on screen was, I still don't fully understand how they did that.
Yeah.
How they made those scenes work, you know, but some of the stuff that he's done, I mean, even it's not the big blockbuster thing. Dunkirk was a very good movie. Oppenheimer was a very good movie. There's something about the way Christopher Nolan directs. You know, Inception is another perfect example. You know, I think he'd be the one. Not that it's ever, you know, if I could have, you know, Christopher Nolan direct it and have Hans Zimmer do the music, I'd probably just keel over and die. But, you know, hot dreams can be hot dreams.
I mean, he might be watching this right now, so who knows who Sarah really is. So just a little note from Sarah. I look at like a lot of Nolan stuff, but as a cinema worker, I hated when his film released in cinemas. Films I can read, I promise.
Yeah, I wonder if it could be because of the crowd, the type of. I'm sure his movies probably sell out for a while.
Yeah, I imagine so.
You know, I would think, but you know, most of his movies. I guess one of the things I like about him is that as soon as the movie's over, you want to see it again, and you're talking about it. And that's one of those things that tells me that okay, the director, they did what they were supposed to do. You know, if they can take it to that level. I'm not saying that if I walk out a movie that I just thoroughly enjoyed, they didn't do a good job. You know, but if I'm trying to piece it together and take it apart and go, oh, and this and this, and you know, that's another level of accomplishment to me.
That's cool. Well, I've run out of questions. We don't have any questions left in the chat. So before I wind this down for the day, is there anything that you'd like to share with the world, all handful of people that are watching this today? Is there anything that you'd like to talk about that we've missed? Now is your chance.
Well, I think I'd like to just, first off, I'd like to say thank you for having me.
Oh, it's been my pleasure.
First time I've ever done anything like this.
You did so good.
And thank you. And it's cool, but I appreciate you having it. I appreciate what you do for independent authors because it's so hard being an indie. You know, I just would hope that the people that hear this, if they haven't tried the book, please, you know, give it a try. You can get it, the first one, for free, although I'd love you to buy it. But if you don't want to commit to that, that's fine too. I really, even though I am biased, I don't think that it's a good story. I think it's characters that people can relate to. And I think it's a story they'll enjoy. And even though it's kind of long, I don't think there's parts where it gets dull. Yeah. I think it keeps you entertained, and I think it keeps you enraptured, and I think it leaves you with the questions you're meant to be left with, you know, to go on through the other books. and if you do read it, mine, any indie authors, please leave a review.
Yes.
As Saffron said before, reviews are gold in this industry, because a good review as an author, it gives you that validation. It gives you that, okay, I did what I set out to do. But, in this day and age, if it doesn't have a lot of, some people that may really enjoy it may not give it a second glance because they just don't feel like it's a good enough, it's good. They're willing to take a chance on it.
For sure. Yeah.
So, and if you like my works, or if you have any other questions, I've got a contact button on our website. You can reach out. I can sell things direct. If anybody wants signed copies, I can even account for that too, and I can mail them.
Fantastic.
I have no problem mailing them out. I only send a newsletter out about one time a month. I don't want to inundate people with too much. I do try to maintain a section on the newsletter that I call Writer's Corner, where I kind of talk about different writing things, like a point I brought up before, like, are you a pantster or a plotter? Or, just some of the insights and some of the tips, things that I've learned along the way that I couldn't necessarily find anywhere before I set off on doing this myself.
Yeah.
And I don't have any problem, answering questions. I want to be, approachable. If there's somebody out there that doesn't know what to do, or they're not sure what to do, or, ask the question, and if I don't have the answer, maybe I have an idea what direction I can point them in.
That's fantastic. I love it when people are approachable and they're willing to share things, because this isn't the industry to gatekeep, and it's not the industry to I don't know. I just think we're all kind of one team. We're all kind of doing our own thing, and especially in the space where, I feel like community is incredibly helpful. Even if it's just for confidence boosting, or just getting another set of eyes on your work, or somebody giving you some honest advice. I'm glad that you're able to share your insights and your experiences, because it helps. Excuse me, I don't know what's going on with my chest today. Because it helps people to not make the same mistakes that you have.
Yeah.
Because what's the point? If somebody's already been through the pain, then you may as well not.
Yeah. I mean, there's certain things, and it's like, there's just, when I first kind of got into this, there is no book, there is no reference that says, do this or do this, and just because something maybe worked for me doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work for somebody else. It may depend on what they're doing, or what the ideas are. But I think the idea of sharing ideas, and I don't want to sit here and be like, no, I did this, and I'm not going to tell you how I did it. That I don't want to hold anybody else back.
For sure.
You gotta, you need to pay it forward. So.
I agree. And also, we've got some agreements in the chat as well. So Team Indie, obviously, big fan of that. A rising tide lifts all boats. I hear this all the time, and this is like so common for the indie community, because we're all just trying to do well. And you've also got some nice compliments in the chat. I don't know if you've seen them, so I'm going to show you anyway. So KP Malloy, you were awesome.
Thank you.
Sarah, had so much fun.
Thank you.
EM Culler, that was a great interview.
Thank you.
Ellen Holmes, good job. You did so well. So I hope that you really enjoyed this. And I look forward to seeing where this book goes, because again, I've said this every time I've read a fantasy book or anything that has fantasy elements in it. There's something about indie fantasy. I don't know what it is. It seems to be the only type that I like.
Yeah. So I think again, it's kind of, I think it kind of comes back down to that formula. I'm using that word as a placeholder. I'm not saying there's an actual formula, but traditional publishers want a certain book length and a certain amount of spice, even if it's gratuitous, a certain amount of language, a certain amount of, this, that, and the other. They have this idea of how they want it to look, and one of the things, like, and sometimes if you just go and look at, just Google or go to Amazon, and urban fantasy or whatever. And you look at all these traditionally published books, and the covers are almost identical.
They're all all the same.
The elements are all the same.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not, they don't add anything else to it. You know, I mean, you know, I realize you want the characters forward,
Mm-hmm.
you know, but I don't know how many urban fantasy books I've seen that's got a picture of the sorceress standing in front of bookshelves or something like that. And I don't necessarily have anything against it. That may be appropriate for it, but it doesn't look any different.
Yeah, doesn't stand out.
Visually, it doesn't look any different. And I really honestly think, and I can't say enough about my author. Melinda is great. I think I have a link to her work. She sells artwork, you know, individually and does and other things, but she is so good to work with. And one of the main reasons that I actually use her was because she's very good, but she's also consistent. And if you dig around and you look online, you can probably see the original cover of the book, which I got lucky the first and only time that I've ever used Fiverr when I found this artist. And every person after that, it was just horrible luck. I don't recommend it.
Okay.
I found this guy that did the cover. He kind of asked me, and I really don't think it was because it was the first time I'd ever seen it visualized. He really did a good job capturing on the cover. And then when I went back for the second one, I could find no trace of it.
Oh,
I mean, nothing. And it was around COVID, and I feared the worst because, I mean, the website was gone. There were no Facebook posts. I mean, everything was just gone.
Oh my gosh.
So I found a person to do the second cover, and it was ready to get the book out, and it was done. And I just kind of settled for the second cover. But since it was by two different people, they weren't consistent.
Yeah.
And with the artist I have now, she's done a really, really good job. She's done all of those covers. And if you look at the covers, you can tell it's the same person.
Yeah.
Cohesive.
Yeah.
And she's very good at drawing people, and she's very good at, I'll get the idea visually in my head. I think this is what I want for the cover. And then she creates it.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's just been a very, very good relationship. And, and I hope if anybody else tries to go out and they can find an artist like that, that they can work with, and that they can get exactly what they want, and, you know, it can look good. But I do honestly think that initial at in-person events, people see the cover, and I really think that's what grabs them. That's why I think that's why they first step up to the table.
Yeah, covers are so important.
Yeah, and there's so many things that you can, and things you can do. I mean, most people may not know this. If you've got, if you have art pieces that you can use, you can actually make a book trailer using PowerPoint, and it costs nothing. Some people know that, some people don't. I always run one on a large picture frame on the table when I do in-person events. Or if I'm talking to somebody, it takes 2 or 3 minutes to run through it. It shows the QR code, kind of gives some information like that, and I think some people may see that first, some people may not. But
cool.
So, but thank you very, very much for having me. I can't thank you enough. And this has been just fun to do.
Oh, I'm glad you enjoyed it. This was a ton of fun, and I'm glad that we got to talk so much about your work, and I hope that people will give it a chance if you haven't already. So I'll put the link for your website in the description of the video, so that when people come watch it, they can click on that if they want to. What social media are you on?
I don't really do social media much.
Yeah,
I'm not a real big fan of it for several reasons. But the few links that I do have, they can get you on the website.
Fantastic. Excellent.
If they want to go and look at the stuff, may be well out of date, but it's there.
Awesome. Well, thank you again for coming on the show, and best of luck with your next releases, and everybody keep an eye out for Rodney. There's stuff happening. But thank you all for joining us today. It was lovely to have such a big turnout, and thank you to everyone that asked questions in the chat. It always makes it fun to have more interaction from the outside. But I'm gonna roll the credits. It's not credits, it's just the same as the intro, but I'm gonna roll the outro, and I will see you after the thing stops being live. I'm gonna stop talking now. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.